Hello. Welcome to Sleuth Slut. I'm Brenda. I read crime fiction widely and give you my feminist perspective on what I've read. A few weeks ago, I finally finished Winter Counts by David Heska Wanbli Weiden, published in 2020. And this is one that I had a bit of trouble getting through, so let's get into it. Winter Counts takes place on a Lakota reservation in South Dakota, and our main character's name is Virgil, and he meets out vigilante justice on the res. So there's sort of a law enforcement gap between what the local police can do and what the federal police or federal authorities can do. So the federal authorities will investigate murders and the local police will investigate minor issues. But there's this big gap of violent crime where there's no jurisdiction. And so people hire him just to beat people up. You know, people will hire him to go beat up the guy who beats his wife. So it's pretty bleak to start. I had a couple of issues right off the bat, and that's how his character is established. The first scene is of him waiting outside a bar to beat someone up. So we understand what he does for a living. And then in the first paragraphs and chapters, there's sort of like offhand mentions of violent crimes, usually against women or children, like rape of children. And these are just sort of mentioned to set the scene, but there's no context. And that is the type of thing that really bothers me, is that I want victims to be humanized. And I don't think that was the author's intention was not to dehumanize, but for me, it kind of like started off with a sour note. And then the other thing is that because we start with this kind of violent scene, we get an idea of what the book is going to be about and who this character is. And those don't really pan out. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. As you can probably tell, this book is kind of bleak. There's not a real cheerful mood to it. And there are a couple scenes of pretty graphic violence. Not a lot, but just a couple. In terms of the plot, I think the first half of the book really needed to be revised and rewritten. The setup is that his ex-girlfriend's father, who is very prominent in the tribal council, hires him to track down a guy who he thinks is bringing hard drugs into the community. So we think this is going to be another job, but it turns into something else. And there's sort of like this halting pace where he sets off with his ex and then they come back and then there's something else that happens. Like it's hard to know who these characters are. The girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend, I found didn't really come together until the end. Same thing with Virgil. So I found there was really an issue with the pacing. About halfway through is when things start really happening and you have a more cohesive narrative. And I did enjoy the second half. So it's too bad. Like, I'm giving this book 2 stars, and that's because the first half, which is really key in a book, like if you don't like the first half, the odds are that you're just going to set that book aside. I persisted because I thought there was something there, and there was, but I'm not sure it was worth trudging through the first half of the books. Let me know if you have read Winter Counts and what you thought. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it. Merci, au revoir.